Welcome, everybody, to this volunteer training. It's the first one that we've had in a long while, and I'm very excited about it. I'm delighted that we've got as many people coming. There will be some people coming in and out. Some are coming later. Some folks have to leave before it's over, but for the most part, we've got people here for the duration. So thanks. There, you do represent a lot of our UU congregations. I think we will have somebody coming in, one of the Pulse students from Boston College that will be volunteering here, just got brought on. I think we'll see from some of them. So some of you have been volunteers so long that you could run this training. And some of you are brand new, and that's a very nice combination. Let me tell you quickly what I see as the goals for this training. It's that people will get a deeper sense, broader sense, more of a sense of what Unitarian Universalist urban ministry is all about now. It does have a 200-year almost history, so there's a lot of history, but we're mostly going to focus on now and what has shifted a little bit at urban ministry. So that'll be the first third of what we'll be doing. The second third is about volunteering and the spirit in which we want to do it, that self-respecting of the people we're here with, and self-respecting of ourselves and respecting of those with whom we are partnering here in Roxbury. The third part, which will just be about what are the opportunities for volunteering. That's the last piece. And there I would have you, I'll say this again, but think not just for yourself, but for others that you might know that would be interested in some of the many opportunities that are present. And the last goal, which is contiguous through this, is that people get to know each other here a little bit. You know, it's always great when there's connections made across congregations. And, you know, don't know all of you, and I'm sure some of you know a lot of each other, but not all. So there'll be opportunities in small groups and in the larger session, and I'm excited about that. So those are the four goals. Learn more about the Unitarian Universalism, urban ministry, go deeper into what it means to be a kind of a volunteer with integrity, learn more about what you can do, and then get to know each other. How does that sound? Great. The session is from 2 to 4. It might be shorter than that. We'll see. It won't be longer. We'll definitely stop at 4 o'clock. As I mentioned, some people are going to be coming in and out. Vinny's going to be handling all that. Thank you so much, Vinny, for doing the tech work. You're probably quite pros at Zoom and so on. Good idea to mute yourself, which I think you all are. Unmute yourself as you have an opportunity or want to say something. And you feel free to use the chat, and that we can track that too if folks have something that they want to say. Although I don't see my chat place. Imagine if you chatted, I would see it. I hope so, or Vinny would. Okay, good. So, okay, all right. I would like us to introduce ourselves, and I would like us to everyone say who they are, say where you're coming from, and meaning your institution or your congregation. Say how you are connected with urban ministry. Are you brand new? Are you a longtime volunteer? Are you a delegate? Are you on the board? Are you a staff person? So say that stuff in about 20 seconds, and each. I'm going to start. I'm going to turn it over to Vinny. Vinny's going to introduce our newest staff person who is here with us today, part of the development team, and then I'll call on each of you and you can just move yourself right along. So, Tricia Brennan, my home church is actually the first church in Jamaica Plain. I joined that church, I think, in 1986. So I've been a member there, even as I've served, as you might know, as an interim minister in a number of congregations, including some years. I'm already taking more time than I want you to. At any rate, I'm a consultant here part-time. So, Vinny, to introduce yourself, if you would, and then.
I will. So thanks to Tricia for being very thoughtful and doing an excellent job putting this training together for us today. This is the first time since before COVID we've done this, so I'm glad we're doing it with a bunch of friendlies here with us today. So thank you all for being here. Vinnie Miles, Director of Development, almost 4 years at the Urban Ministry now, and it's lovely as always to be here with you guys. Introduce Annie Stubbs, who most of you guys know, my colleague whom I loved, retired a couple weeks back, and Maggie Paula joined us and is doing an amazing job. So Maggie, you want to say hello?
Hi, I'm Maggie. You probably have seen my name come across some of your inboxes, and if not, it's great to meet everybody. I'm so excited to be here and so excited to be part of a great organization.
Thank you, Maggie. Thank you, Vinny. All right, Lisa, you're up in the top left. Can you begin doing a lickety-split introduction, your name, your congregation, your connection with urban ministry? Take it away.
Great. I can't see if I'm the only Lisa, but I'm Lisa Snellings. And I'm a member of Fallen Church in Lexington. I've been engaged with the urban ministry since I moved to Boston almost 20 years ago. I love the organization, and I'm lucky enough to have been a member of the board for 4 or 5 years now. And I'm really excited about the direction that we're moving in. And I want to just applaud Vinny and Maggie and Tricia for all the great work you're doing. So thank you.
And thank you, Lisa. We're lucky to have you. Hey, Chris Nelson, could you introduce yourself?
Sure, I'm Chris Nelson. I live in Cambridge, but I am a member of the First Parish in Wayland. I first volunteered at the urban ministry, I think in the late 1990s, with Teresa, who's on the call, and Lisa in the Explorers Club. And since then have done a number of things. I think my favorite was helping women who are getting ready to take the citizenship test. These are women from Renewal House. And I've also been fortunate to have served on the board.
Thanks, Chris. Posey.
Sorry, I had my sound off. I'm Posey Walton from Theodore Parker Church, which is in West Roxbury. I live in Roslindale. And I've been a delegate from the church for 3 or 4 years and was interested in attending programs there before that.
Thank you, Posey. Teresa, please.
To mute myself, right? I'm Teresa Jacobson, and I live in Cambridge, but my home church is in Lexington. And as Lisa mentioned, I've been involved. Actually, my husband and I, Al Jacobson. Oops. Oh, yes.
You're muted now. Did you want to say more, Teresa?
It was
I
working.
kind of muted myself because there's a phone call in the background. I don't know, maybe we should just go on.
Don't worry. We can't hear it.
Because I can't turn it off, Anyway, so Teresa Jacobson, home church, Lexington, involved in, I don't want to remember when, because, Al, my husband, who's passed away, and I started coming to the Explorers Club, I guess is what it was called. When I can't remember how many years ago. I just know I had little kids, and often we brought them along with us. So yeah, so I mean, I'm also just very delighted about my continued involvement and the direction that the church is taking. So, and I just look, with a lot of joy at what's happening. So
wonderful. Thanks, Teresa.
Yeah.
Lisa Sawyer, could you introduce yourself?
Hi. Yeah, I'm Lisa Sawyer. I moved to Hingham about 7 years ago and joined Old Ship Church, and I'm a delegate there. I first heard about the urban ministry when Mary Margaret came to preach, and I was just very impressed. So that was
Wonderful.
it.
Thank you. Hi, Alice. Can you share yourself?
Sure. I'm Alice de Normandy, and I'm from the First Parish in Lincoln. And I grew up in this church, and I have a family connection to the urban ministry, and I am very excited to be in this particular training because our congregation is really working hard on volunteer involvement outside of First Parish.
Awesome, perfect. Moving down to you, Rebecca Winborn.
Rebecca Winborn. I'm from First Parish in Concord. I live in West Concord. And I see Katie Weeks. I used to attend First Parish of Stowe and Acton. It's nice to see a familiar face. I am a delegate for the past, I think, 3 or 4 years at Urban Ministry. And before that, I attended a number of cultural events in the sanctuary, which is now going to be so spiffy, and I just can't wait. And I'm involved in a circle of support for Dee Dee's Cry, which is one of the organizations that Urban Ministry is really working to create resources for.
Awesome, thank you. Hi, Laura. Can you introduce yourself?
My name is Laura Maltby. It feels very strange to say that currently I am not a member of any UU church, but was a longtime member of Fallon Church. Hi, Lisa. Member of First Parish Dorchester for several years, and just started attending services at Theodore Parker. So I have been a delegate from both of my previous congregations, have volunteered in a variety of programs from Renewal House to Believe in Success, a little bit with Explorers Club. Have not been an active volunteer recently, but love the fact that I live now 10 minutes away from the urban ministry, which just makes it so much easier to attend events. And I look forward to hearing about some new ways to be involved.
We love that too, yeah. Hi, Andrew Derek. Can you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Andy Durr. I'm from First Parish in Stowe. Longtime UU from New London, Connecticut, and moved here about 3 years ago, and then retired a year ago. And so getting active again. I'm a new delegate from FPC, and have not done much, and looking forward to doing some.
Yeah, this will probably be great for you. Thanks. Glad you're here. Hi, Ruth. Can you introduce yourself?
Yep, I'm Ruth Hannon, and I'm a member of First Parish Milton. And I'm a new volunteer with Urban Ministry and look forward to learning a lot more.
Thank you, Ruth. Hi, Katie.
Hi, I'm Katie Weeks, and I'm with the First Parish Church of Stowe and Acton with Andy, and Rebecca's a previous member. So hi, Rebecca. Although First Parish has been a part of the group of congregations that support the UU Urban Ministry for many years under Tom Raziello, the actual members have been a little bit less active, and so our Racial Justice Task Force is hoping to increase our participation. We have one other group that we support, which is the Concord Prison Outreach folks. So we're very interested in doing some more work with UU Urban Ministry.
Awesome, wonderful. Gare, hello. Tell us about yourself.
Good afternoon, folks. Gare Reed. I'm at the Unitarian Church of Sharon. I've been on the Social Justice Committee here for many years, and we've just this past year gone through some reflection and have decided we're restructuring our work. And so we're looking for more volunteer opportunities locally, and are very excited about the possibility of being much more involved than we have been for over the years at the Urban Ministry. It's been great programming. We're aware of it, but we haven't been hands-on enough, and we'd like to change that. So thank you.
Sure, wonderful. Let's see, some of the folks are coming in, but Leslie Fisher, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm Leslie Fisher, First Parish in Concord. a delegate along with Rebecca Winborn. And I'm going to turn off the video and the audio because I have to squeeze lunch in right here.
That's fine. Glad you're here. Thank you, Leslie. Cushing, I think you just came in. What we're doing is just briefly saying our name, what institution we're from, and what is the role, whether you've been a volunteer, delegate, brand new, staff person. So just a very quick snippet.
I'm Cushing Giese. I'm the delegate from First Parish in Cambridge.
Thank you. Patrick Cooleybeck, could you do the same?
Hi, I'm Patrick Cooleybeck, he, him pronouns. I'm in Somerville, but I'm a delegate from Arlington Street Church in Boston.
Wonderful.
New volunteering here. I
Mhm.
do have 12 and a half years of youth soccer experience, so
Mhm.
we'll see where that.
We can find a place for you for that, yeah. Hey, Camille, hi, I didn't see your name. Tell me who you are. Tell us who you are.
Hi, sure. I'm Camille Schmidtick, and I'm a member of First Parish Church in Weston. I'm not a delegate, but I'm friends with some delegates from First Parish, and I'm very curious to learn more about volunteering.
Great. Love that curiosity. Hello, Jean Maslin. Could you introduce yourself? I think, you got to unmute yourself.
Sorry about that. I'm Jean Maslin. I'm also from First Parish Weston, and I'm the one that invited Camille. She's the chair of our outreach committee and has been very committed to urban ministry. So, and I am a delegate.
Terrific. Welcome, Jean. Hello there, Paul, my colleague. Can you introduce yourself?
Hello, I'm the Minister
Hi.
for Social Action at First Parish in Concord, and I am here to learn more about what the volunteer opportunities are so I can share that more widely with the congregation and hopefully create more opportunities here that we can have more connections.
Absolutely perfect. Great. And then Claire Hurley, can you introduce yourself?
Yes, hello. Very nice to see all of you. My name is Claire Hurley, and I'm with the Fallen Church in Lexington, and am also a member of the Circle of Support, having been in some meetings for Dee Dee's Cry, and looking to learn more about volunteering. Thank you.
And thank you, Claire. We'll hear more about Dee Dee's Cry a little bit later. So I'm going to actually have you broken into small groups and to answer, well, we're focusing a lot on being volunteers in this training. At the same time, we've each been touched by people that have impacted our lives. And I just want to take a moment to ask people to think about that experience of receiving, because that can help us be more effective, more thoughtful, be able to focus on what really matters as we engage as volunteers. So I'm presuming you can still hear me, even though Vinny's making you all into small groups. But here's the question that you can take up. Can you share a moment when a volunteer or a mentor or someone made a difference in your life through their words and their actions? So you'll be in small groups and just take a moment and think, who was it? It could be monumental, and it could be really small but really instrumental. So Vinny, are people heading into, do you have them into small? He's putting you all into groups. You'll have 5 minutes, and Vinny will give you the 1 minute flash when you're coming to the end of that, and you'll be in groups of 4. So that suggestion on what to talk about will be in the chat as well. But as he's getting you in groups, I'll just say it again, and then you won't even need to look for it, which is really just think about, when have you been touched by someone that's been a helper to you, a partner to you, and take some time to share on that. Any one story that as you were in your small groups, you just were like, oh my God, I'm so glad I thought about that person and that experience. If anybody wants to share one story, it would, be nice to hear. Anybody? No problem. Going once, going twice. I hope you all had a good time with each other. We are going to actually take a minute and talk about the mission and the vision of urban ministry. I'm going to turn it over to Lisa Snellings, who's on the board and was active when the mission and the vision were created. Lisa, thank you for speaking about what I think must have been a pretty deep process, because I experience the mission is very alive here.
Thanks. Thank you. Yeah, I joined the board in 2020 before the pandemic. And there was already underway a strategic visioning process under Mary Margaret's leadership, where there was a recognition that the current mission and programming needed to be reviewed and realigned with what was happening in the community. And during the strategic planning process, the pandemic happened and began in March of 2020. And then we had the death of sorry, the gentleman in Minnesota. I'm having there's so many names.
I'm afraid yeah, I think you're thinking George Floyd.
George Floyd, thank you.
Right.
And at that point, the board adopted a statement called "We Speak Now," which, was an urgent call to action on behalf of the board to update our mission, our vision, and to renew our commitment to anti-racism. And that really energized the mission vision work to lead us to adopt at annual meeting in May of 2021, the mission statement that Vinny has up on the screen right now. And Tricia, I don't know if you'd like to read it or have me read it.
Why don't you read it?
Okay. Yeah. So our vision adopted by the delegates is: we envision a greater Boston where all people live with freedom and dignity and have equitable access to resources and opportunity to shape the present and the future. And our mission is UU Urban Ministry. We work across race and place to dismantle racism and white supremacy culture and to advance racial, economic, and social justice. And I'll say that I had the privilege of serving on sort of the small working group that, really did the wordsmithing of this statement. And we were incredibly fortunate to have two longtime board members, African-American men, participating in the conversation. And they really pushed the organization and the white members of that group and the board to be as assertive, aggressive, and proactive as possible in adopting a very strong anti-racism mission. And so I thank Derek Lumpkins and David Harris, who are no longer on the board, for really leading and energizing the work that led to the adoption of the vision and mission, the vision and the mission. So thanks.
Yeah, well, thank you. Thank you for giving a little bit of the background on it. As I mentioned before, as someone who's fairly new here, I don't know that I've ever been in a place where the mission is so alive. We talk about it at staff meetings. Vinny and I did an interview earlier today. We said the mission. I mean, it's here. In fact, let's go to the next slide, because this is in keeping with that. Now, I think if you've been here, this quote from Lila Watson, and correct me if I'm not pronouncing her first name properly. She's from Australia, and this quote is written along the sides of the walls as you come in, which if you've been here, but if you haven't, there you go. If you have come here to help me, you're wasting your time. But if you have come because your liberation is bound up with mine, then let us work together. I just find that one line in particular, and that your liberation is bound up with mine, really gets at what we are about here and what we want the volunteering to be about, and to some degree what this training is about. Thanks, Lisa, for taking us down there, and we will now move on to the programs here. So there's kind of 4 buckets here. There's the youth programs, there's the Renewal House domestic violence program, There's the entry into arts and humanities, the tours program, and then the piece we call community engagement. We're going to have a little piece on each of those as we go through what's happening here at Urban Ministry, starting with Roxbury Youth Programs. That's a great photo there. I think this was after we had a presentation. The youth concluded their academic year with a great, and they worked with a local theatrical actor and director there. So anyways, it's a safe, enriching program for young people during their after-school hours. It's also a summer program. Probably it would be best if you now heard from Reggie Jackson, who's the director, and following Reggie, Sophia, one of the youth in the program, will be speaking. So on with Reggie.
Hello, my name is Reggie Walker and I'm the program manager here at RYP. RYP is an after-school program that supports students from all over Boston and helps prepare them for life after high school. A typical day at RYP begins at 2 p.m. where students are greeted by RYP staff as well as Boston College students that come in to help tutor them for 2 hours. At 4 p.m., that's when programming kicks off. This could look like anything like activities from art projects, skill building workshops, and personal development seminars. At 5:30 p.m., students are served a hot meal by our in-house chef and then transported home at 6 p.m. by our van driver. We are currently looking for more volunteers to come in to make a difference by sharing their knowledge and skills with our students. Whether you can tutor, lead a career workshop, offer financial literacy lessons, or even share a wellness practice, we're looking for your help to help shape the future of these young people. I would also like to let you know that our RYP application has already opened. We're accepting students for our 2024 to 2025 academic year, and we're looking for students that can benefit from our program, so if you know anyone, please direct them to our website. In a while, you're going to hear from our student, Sophia Taporta, who's a former RYP Career Exploration intern, and she's going to share a little bit about how RYP has made an impact on her life. I want to thank you so much for supporting RYP. Your involvement can truly make a difference, and I'm looking forward to seeing you soon in the future. Thank you so much. Hello, my name is Reggie Walker, and I'm the program.
He's back. Here's Sophia.
Anything to RIP, it'd be yes, thank you. But more than the thank you, I wanted to say thank you for providing a second home for my friends and I. Thank you for being my second family. Thank you for building a family with me. Thank you for creating for helping me create network, for taking me on field trips to places in which I would have never thought of going. Love and support, and I just don't have enough words to, like I said, like I've been saying, I don't think I'll ever be able to describe how amazing this place is. You just have to come, you just have to live it. You just have to when you come in the door, say hi to Rosemary. I love Rosemary, I love you. You just have to say hi to Rosemary. You just have to be greeted by Mary Margaret. You just have to be given a smile by Bethia. You just have to joke around with Chef. It's just there's just so many things that happen every day that I didn't realize how much they've impacted me. So I sat down and I actually had to think about what I wanted to say to you guys. And yeah, I just feel so grateful and happy to have been a part of this place and for being part of this place in the future, because one thing, I'm not leaving. I just don't, it's just amazing. It's an amazing place, and I just feel so happy and comfortable and safe and loved. And yeah, thank you, RP, for being my family.
Well, it certainly is wonderful to hear that from Sophia. I'll add that, whatever she has received, she certainly sends back. It's wonderful to have her and the other, they're pretty amazing people, young people. Let's move on to look at Renewal House, which is the domestic violence shelter that has been in place here at Urban Ministry since 1980. We'll go directly now to a short interview with Marie Padilla, who is the director of Renewal House. I think she's been there for about 5 years, so cue that up. Great.
Hi, Marie. Hey, Trish. Thanks for taking this time to talk with me and the volunteers about Renewal House. I thought we would just start with you sharing a little bit about the mission and the life here at Renewal House.
Well, our mission is to provide a safe space for survivors, victim of domestic violence. Our goal is to empower them to be able to move on from the program, live independently, and educate them on their experiences. Some of them come in not knowing what they've experienced, not knowing what they've been feeling, and we do that by way of groups and things like that.
About how long do most people stay? I imagine it varies somewhat, and we're talking families as well as women that come without children. Okay.
Yeah. So typically, it's on the local housing waiting lists. If someone is documented, it's typically 2 to 3 years. Undocumented, we're seeing 4 to 5 years.
So they're
Pretty
really
long.
here for a while, which
Mhm.
I would imagine some of the things that you talked about with the challenges that they're experiencing. Even though everybody wants to be in their own home, there's some, am I right to say there's some benefit to having this length of time?
There is. Yes, it's an enriching environment for them.
Environment.
Yes.
Well, that actually leads to another question. I just, like, what are you most proud of that has, and how long have you been here?
I've been here going on 5 years.
All right, so you've had time to see the challenges and the things that make you feel like, yeah, we're doing good stuff. And maybe just to share with people, what are those things, some of the things that you feel proud about that happen here?
This program is, I've worked with other shelters in the past. This one is set apart. The integrity of the way that we handle our guests, the resources that we provide. The organization really strives to come forth when there is a need amongst the guests, and they've always done their best to provide what's needed with their guests. The place is immaculate. We strive to keep a clean, healthy, and sanitary environment for our guests.
Well, that is something to be proud of.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
These are all volunteers or prospective volunteers, people that want to support urban ministry that are listening now. I have to think this isn't a place that anybody can volunteer at. You need folks that have some sensitivity to the experiences of the women and the children. Can you say what, with that in mind still, what are things that people could help out here? What would be a way that they could partner with you to serve the women?
So this is a question that we've asked the guests in the program, and the feedback was childcare. Like they would appreciate a volunteer to step in and provide maybe some activities with the children and some childcare while they're able to cook dinner or take care of household needs that they need to take care of. They've also voiced things like self-care, spas, getting their hair done, their nails done, which tells me that they are trying to manage stress.
Yeah.
And so that was, it may be some activities for the mom, paint nights. These are just examples, and maybe some activities for the children as well.
Yeah.
So that's.
I suppose if you could get that happening at the same time, childcare for the kids and self-care for the moms, and we've got a great package.
Yeah, we've got, yes,
Great,
the 2-in-1,
great,
for sure.
Great.
For sure.
Hey, listen, thank you very much
You're
for taking
welcome.
the time
You're
out of your
welcome.
busy day.
Thank you.
Hi, Marie. Hey, Trish. Thanks for taking.
Well, that was fun. She said she wasn't going to do it unless she could have somebody there to talk with her. So I'm like, okay. The next piece of the program I want to talk about is the tours program, Arts and Humanities. Just want to say, when I think about doing social justice work, if we can engage the arts, the humanities, the creative spirit in that work, it's going to sing in a way that's way better than without it. I've been on one of the tours, the public art tour. You'll see a picture here. I think that's Diane Walters that's leading the tour. That was super fun. I'm going to go to the one on the trees of Roxbury with Thomas Plant. That's coming up quite a bit in October. In fact, I'm going to offer something after that tour to just sit and process it a little bit. But anyways, there's so much happening here, and so much more will happen when the meeting house is done. But we have something coming up this month on the work of James Baldwin on the occasion of his 100th birthday. I want to show you a video, just a portion of a video by one of the local artists, Christy Rawlings Jackson. So let's go to that, Vinny, and it's going to be just about 4 minutes of what is an 8-minute video. It says at the beginning, she's a poet and a singer, and she's going to be speaking about her experiences in Ghana, actually through the voice of somebody else. I'll stop talking. Let's hear her.
In Ghana, there is a slave fort probably every 2.5 miles along the coast, which I had no idea before going there, that these slave forts just kind of overcame the entire coast. Some of them, there's just remnants, but there are many that are still standing. And so the first thing that you do when you go there, is you're brought to the slave forts. The first time I went, we were waiting to go into the slave dungeon in Cape Coast Castle. And a group was coming out as we were going in. And some of the people were being literally carried out. They had passed out. There were people who were crying. There were people who had this dazed look on their face, like they had seen something so horrible that they were traumatized. They were in shock. And I didn't want to go in there because of what I saw on the faces of the people that came out. And it's an empty room. There's nothing in there except for the residue of the agony of the people who were put in these dungeons.
Good afternoon. How's everyone doing today? I'm feeling wonderful because I just returned from Africa. I celebrated my 40th birthday in Ghana. It was the first time I'd been away from home and away from my family. And although I missed them, I was just so excited to be back home in the motherland, in the place where all humanity began and the spirit of women was born. I realized during my visit, I had to see the slave forts and castles. I experienced Fort Amsterdam, Shama, the fort at Elmina, and of course, Cape Coast Castle. Once inside the slave castle, I was just blown away. I was overwhelmed with feelings of anger, fear, sadness, but most of all, I was overwhelmed with a feeling of familiarity, like I had been there before. And I knew in that instant that someone in my family had been there. Don't ask me how. I could just feel it, And I knew that all she wanted was to be remembered. All she wanted was to be remembered. I feel a spirit, mighty spirit, take me back, bring me back home, where I can be free where I can be free. Take me back. I wanna go home. Ooh, ooh. The spirit of women is flying free because they live within me.
It's a powerful piece, isn't it? There on the website, Urban Ministry website, you can find the totality of that video by Crystal and also a number of other artists that were engaged with during COVID time, actually. Vinny tells me that there'll be an even deeper engagement with the artist community coming up in ways that we can wait to see, but I wanted you to see that. And I chose that one out of the many beautiful ones that are on the website because she so much talks about the history of slavery. And she believes that her storytelling, her sharing opens up conversations that need to happen. Okay, moving on to community engagement, the last of the 4 areas in here at Urban Ministry. And that one, you don't have a video or anything like that. You got a great photo of a recent event called a suicide walk, a prevention walk that happened 2 weekends ago, led by Dee Dee's Cry organization. And this was a portion of the group that walked. I do want to say those beautiful signs were made by Rebecca Winborn, who couldn't be there, but she supplied the signs. And we had other folks from the Circle of Support for Dee Dee's Cry that had wonderful snacks there for people. So community engagement is one of those, catch-all things that covers, it's like almost everything else that happens here at Urban Ministry, other than the 3 other areas I mentioned. And it's part and parcel of what we do and do more and more of. I mentioned or listed on the slide here is the community conversations, which are monthly, I guess what you call them, webinars that they're sponsored by different congregations. So thank you very much if your congregation is one of them. Last year's focus point was housing. This year's coming up, I think the focus point is going to be on something to do with the history. Yeah. So stay tuned. They sure were great. On the housing ones, I thought they were terrific. The Peace Garden that some of you here are active in keeping looking beautiful and planting it and tending it. That's, as you know, right outside. That's something that people come by and hang out in. Just our neighbors swinging by, and we love that. Awful lot of use of the space here by local organizations. We love that. Plenty of other partnerships and connections that you'll be hearing about later and others in the making. And then just to circle back to the Circle of Support, there are 6 people now who, this is our kind of pioneer effort to look for ways to support community-based organizations that Urban Ministry has a particular affinity with or relationship in place, and that we feel like that would make, we would be mutually good partners. And so there's 6 folks that meet monthly with the founder and director of Dee Dee's Cry, Joy Burton, and they are looking for ways and are finding ways to support what is a very small and very important organization that is here in Roxbury, fighting suicide and trying to prevent it, and also being present in the aftermath of when someone has died by suicide and their loved ones need support. So that's what I want on that. And now I want to ask you, it's been a lot of information coming at you, and just to take a breath and to take it all in, and to think to yourself, how do I, as a volunteer, how do my values, how do who I am align with the mission and work of UU Urban Ministry. Just to try and take it home to yourself. And upon reflection, if you're willing, just to write something in the chat along those lines as to how who you are finds a place here, how your values line up with what you're hearing are the values of justice work and liberation at the Urban Ministry. And if you'd be so willing to just put something in the chat, and that way we can have a conversation. We're just going to take 2 minutes for that. Just unmute yourself. Did the article resonate with you? Did you see yourself in any of those roles? Go ahead, someone, Devaline.
I was going to say for me, oh, go ahead. I think somebody else was starting to speak. I don't want to.
It's Rebecca was trying to speak, I think.
Oh. Do you want me to go ahead?
Yes.
Okay. I get helping and fixing. I don't know why, but serving just doesn't resonate with me. It feels, I don't even know how to describe it. It's just not the right word for me.
Not the right word for you.
I choose companioning.
Nice.
And I don't know, I might think of some others, but that's
your honest response. Thanks. Thanks. Any others have that kind of, I don't know, mixed feelings or even antagonistic feelings about that word serving?
I had, this is Posey. I had experience as an interpreter for deaf kids for a while, using a system called Cued English instead of sign language. I don't know sign language. And our trainers said a lot of the history of being a sign interpreter was to be a helper to the deaf person, to make sure that the kid, this was going to be in school, make sure the kid got his homework assignment right, and make sure that the kids were nice to him. And he said, our job is not to live the kid's life for him, it's to tell him what sounds are being made in the room, so he can hear everything that's happening. And in that sense, we were just serving them as voices instead of as helpers.
Thank you, Posey.
I have a different reaction. I helping and fixing bother me. Serving not as much, and maybe it's because I've done too much work around servant leadership, which is really where you lead from behind. So that might be why. But helping and fixing always feels to me like there's a power dynamic that I know how to help you and I know how to fix you, and what you might want or need I have defined. And so serving and partnership feel different to me in that context. And I always think I have a recent example. We're doing a blanket drive right now at Old Ship for people. We were asked to do this for people working with migrants at the Quincy Family Center. And as we were talking about this in my committee, somebody said, well, we need to do advocacy. We don't need to do blankets. Giving people blankets isn't going to help. And I immediately had this reaction. It's probably because of my work for years with the service committee, but the group that's working has asked us, they have partnered and said, this is what we need. And if we come in and say, no, we need to go fight with the governor on your behalf, we're again sort of taking over and telling you what you need to do. Not that advocacy isn't something that needs to be done too, but it's that different way of working in a partnership way with people who tell you what they need or where they are. And that just feels like a very different thing than let me help you, let me fix you. I know I hate it when people want to fix me. It's like, that's.
Yeah, and you raise the importance of really listening.
That's where I was coming from. Sometimes when I talk to someone with an issue of some kind, there's an immediate reaction to fix, and I don't need to be fixed. I need to be listened to at that point. And it strikes me, serving strikes me as having sort of an underlying Buddhist philosophy, which seems to me to require striving, as opposed to, I don't know. I think we're so conditioned to fix and to help and fix, that serving is really a much more spiritually based activity. And you know, I would like to be there. I think I get it. It appeals. There's enormous appeal, but I think it's not something that for, at least for me, that comes like that.
Can I just jump in and say that I was so taken by the article, I sent it to our Racial Justice Action Group, just because I thought they'd be interested. And I must have gotten five responses of people that it just resonated on a deep level for people who had not been able to really articulate that difference, and that it really hit home in a very deep way. And I'll just say that the little bit I've done so far in the circle of support, making those signs, I asked Toy what she wanted on the signs. What message did she want? And then I could do those messages. And so it feels like it's really an accompaniment kind of model. That's one of the words I like to use.
Yeah, that's good.
Much like the companioning that
Yeah.
mentioned before. That's a wonderful example, though, Rebecca. Thank you.
Thing that stood out for me, and it's Maggie. I don't know where I am on every screen, but hi. Was the word support came to my mind. I think working as a student mentor and a tutor on the side, and definitely having my shared experience, for me, it was just, I guess I just don't like the word serving, but I always like supporting. It doesn't feel the same as helping, but it feels the same as lending an extra hand when necessary, or even just giving somebody an extra shoulder. Sometimes that's what they need, or an extra hand. And to me, it's all about how to support the people that I'm surrounding and that I care about, or even my community. So, yeah.
Thank you, Maggie. I think this just raises a little bit that words mean different things to different people. Support, companioning, a couple people have had that. No, serving isn't the right word for me. I think I understand that a little bit myself. But then when you parse it out about what we mean, I think that's where we really get into what's the point of us talking about this now, that if we come in as fixers, there is the implication that something or someone is broken. And that's a really different way of looking at somebody than, I have something to give, you have something to give. We are human beings struggling. We want to come together and make a difference. And it's just yeah, I mean, she does a beautiful job later on in this short article of speaking about the experience she had as a young woman who had major surgery, had her body all rearranged because of the surgery, needed to have this appliance to handle her intestines, and the difference between people coming in and kind of in a very skillful, professional way, touching her and helping her change the appliance, and the person who came in and just really saw her and just really washed her hands before she touched her, more than washing her hands afterwards. And there's something that, I was struck with how powerful that interaction was for Rachel. She talked about feeling beforehand that how am I going to live my life? I feel so different. I feel, out of step with being a woman. And in that minute or two encounter, she felt seen and whole and healed. And I could quote it, but that a surge of energy came up in her. And she was like, I think I can do this. So it's, so much is how we are with people. First of all, I want to ask another question, but did anybody else? I can't actually see everybody. Does somebody have something else they want to say about the article before I raise another question? Okay. And I see what you've written, Cushing. Around here at Urban Ministry, the word that we use is partnership all the time. We don't use that word serving. And I wonder to me, when I read the way she looks at the understanding of what it means to her serving, it feels a lot like what the word we use with partnership, or what we mean when we say partnership. I will say, to contrast those two words, and we'll get out of wordsmithing pretty soon, but that partnership really implies, a sense of equality. We're in it together. Perhaps for me more than serving does. And I'm certainly open to be one who serves. But partnership is really like, I have something to give, you have something to give, we're working together. So here's a little slide on that. Relationships go both directions. People are not projects to be fixed. They're people with the totality of who they are. And if we're helping each other. And then the notion of doing with, which in the accompaniment, I hear that, doing with as opposed to doing to others. Are there any other definitions of partnership that you would want to throw into the mix before we move on?
Tricia, I might just put mutual listening.
Nice. Nice, thank you. Who was speaking there?
Alice.
Thank you, Alice. Mutual listening. Good Lord, that's really great.
No, and there's Teresa, and there's the assumption, right, in partnership that both people are going to get something out of working together. And I like that.
What do you like about that, Teresa?
Well, that you're open, right, to learning something, to new ideas, and on both sides, right? I mean, it's not a one-way street.
Not a one-way street. Yeah, no, I just wanted to have you spell it out. I think it's such a good point. The transformation happens, when we are engaged in this work, and it can happen in many places, including within us. I wanted to share a story from my life before we break into some small groups. It's implied in Rachel's article that to fix people has its limitations. It's implied that to help people can give the message that you aren't strong enough, and I'm here to help you because I am. So there are ways that we can, get involved, and we can actually not do it that skillfully. I wanted to talk about an experience when I didn't do so good, because I feel like it's part of living is that we make mistakes and that we can learn from them. So here's one for me that when I thought to myself, what could be something that I could share as a springboard to conversation? I went back to something a long time ago. In my late 20s, I was hired to help or to be the director of a shelter for unhoused families in Framingham. And this was back in the 1980s when the housing problem was bad then, not as bad as it is now, but family homelessness was on the rise. Being in Framingham, which is a fairly solid suburban community, there was a lot of support. There were, like the Rotary Club and a women's club and all different groups coming out, taking on, setting up the different bedrooms and just doing a lot of things to get the building ready. And we had a great group of men from a pre-release program that were there as well, helping to do a lot of the manual labor. They did a lot of painting and carpentry work. So the place got ready. It was up, ready to bring in 9 different families. And we had a big open house to celebrate that the work was complete and we were ready to have families come in, the whole point of it. And I was the, person leading that. It was a pretty big community event. A lot of people came to it. And I did a lot of thanking of people who had helped. And it all seemed to be a wonderful event, and it was over. And then the assistant director came up to me and said, the men from the pre-release program weren't thanked, and they feel kind of hurt. And I was, oh God. So I went to talk to them, and I apologized, and they said, well, why did you thank everybody but not us? And I said, I think what was happening was that I didn't know if you would want to be mentioned as somebody who was involved in the criminal justice system. And they said, each one of them at different times and in different ways in that conversation, look, we are just human beings. Of course, we want to be appreciated and thanked. And actually, wouldn't it be great for people to see that those who've been imprisoned, have good hearts, have something to offer. So that was a very painful moment. It was painful for them. It was painful for me. And when I think about what if I had been using the mindset of partnership, what would have been different, or serving, either one, but let's use partnership. And I think it's kind of obvious, right? When I tell this example, why the heck didn't I talk with them beforehand if I had any apprehension? Why did I just go ahead and presume that I knew what somebody else would think or feel and make a decision, an erroneous one, based on my presumption? So back then, I think I should say, as an aside, I certainly acknowledge my mistake and apologize to each one of them sincerely and repeatedly. And not long afterwards at the shelter, we had a night just for those cadre of men. And it was special, it was a meal, and, we invited other people. And the men had such good grace with me. They could have just walked out at that point, but they didn't. They were willing to hang in there with this new young director and hang in there with the needs of the program. And they stayed actively involved, and that felt good, of course. But when I think back on that, I think that the problem or the mistake on my end arose from the arrogance of presuming, that I could know how other people, as I said before, think and feel. And I think it was also, and I didn't realize this then, but I do now, it was that problem of not seeing the whole person. I was seeing them not only as folks in pre-release program that were coming through the criminal justice system, but that was enough central that was put in the way. And the folks in the disabilities rights community have taught us a lot by asking us to not look at people based on their handicap and call somebody handicapped, but it's a person with a disability, or somebody who struggles with addiction is, a person who uses drugs, not an addict. And similarly, I was using, too much of a focus on, that one piece of those folks. And the last thing I realized afterwards, just thinking about that, long ago time, was that when in the aftermath of realizing I'd made this mistake, I said to myself, you just can't do that again. You have to make sure, you have to be more aware. You have to make sure you don't make that mistake, and you got to be more careful. And I realized that's illusionary too, and that being overly vigilant or vigilant in itself isn't really going to ensure that I don't make mistakes. Nothing can ensure that I won't make mistakes, but if I'm in connection and partnership with people, I do think that limits the likelihood that I'm going to make that kind of error. And it certainly gives me a place to be in when I do make a mistake, to be in more ready connection already with people. So I don't know if that is making sense. I'm hoping that my hope was to just to talk about a mistake and to acknowledge that that is part of being human, and that we are lifelong mistake makers and lifelong learners from those mistakes. Yeah. So I think I'm going to ask us to move on to one slide, and then we're going to go into small groups. If you could give me the slide that says we all make mistakes. So when we do, what do? When we step in it, we apologize, we learn from our mistakes. And the notion is that we're never going to be perfect, but if we can be learning from the mistakes that we make, then we're moving in the right direction. And it enables us to be, helpful to other people who are learning as well. It does help to have a place where you feel like you've messed up, that you can just talk through it honestly with others. I do recommend that. It helps to be kind to ourselves and others, and that we are going to make mistakes. And, that was a pretty bad mistake I made, to be honest. But we got through it, and most mistakes aren't irredeemable. They can be remedied, they can be worked through. Practicing non-defensiveness, it's so easy to get defensive when someone tells us we did something wrong, but therein is the pointers for us to moving in the directions we want to go in. And then I would say, bye, Andrew, I see you have to leave, that it's important to take the work that we do seriously, but not ourselves, to keep a sense of humor. I'm going to ask folks to go into small groups now, and there you can have a chance to talk about, experiences when you've made a mistake, and when you were in connection or made a mistake with somebody of a different race or a class or a life experience, and how did you handle that? How did you wish you handled that? What did you learn from your mistake? Also, you might want to think about that article, Fixing, Helping, Sharing, Fixing, Helping, Serving. And, where have you been in those different categories? Is that something that is worthwhile to think more about and to share about? Where do you see yourself there? And then also, and this one is a little bit hard to articulate clearly, but that in this engagement work as volunteers, we want to be able to balance the fact that, as someone said earlier, we're receiving as much as we're giving, and how to be in that space, where we're bringing our gifts and our talents, and we're recognizing that it is a mutual process. So I'm not quite sure what the question is there, but you may sense that. Vinny's going to put you into small groups for 10. Vinny says it's going to be 5 minutes. Okay. I'll see you in 5 minutes. Welcome back. Anything you want to share from your mini groups? Did you have enough time?
No, it was too short.
It's too short. Okay, we'll take that under consideration. Thank you.
But powerful, very powerful.
I'm glad. Right.
If I may offer, I got bumped out and rejoined the room late. I had an incredible wake-up call about 10 years ago at Arlington Street Church after one of the services. The families would get together downstairs, kind of off in our own room, to keep the kids kind of contained, and it was a bit quieter in there. And there were a couple of African-American women, single mothers, who came with their kids, the friends of somebody else from Medford, and they asked me and another white man, another father, during one of the discussions, something to the extent of what does it mean to be white, and neither of us got the gist of the question, and we offered kind of like a half-baked joking response about, I don't know, it's not NASCAR, it's not, and it hit me 5 minutes after everyone left. The answer to the question, what does it mean to you to be white, is that you don't think about it.
Yeah.
And I've just carried that with me since then.
That's part of the air that we breathe. Yeah.
And I was never able to touch base with the people after that, and it's kind of haunting.
I'm glad you shared it here.
Thank you.
I'm not in touch with the men that I shared in that story, but they live in me still, and I think that what I learned from that mistake that I made informs me too. So we carry these things, and thank you for sharing it. Yeah. I'm going to switch now into, perhaps it's what you've all been waiting for, which is how can you volunteer? What is needed volunteering as part of urban ministry? And that means here and it means out in the community. So I'm going to go through it rather quickly. Unmute yourself and jump in if you have a question, although there will also be some time at the end, but it makes sense to ask in the moment too. You actually heard from Reggie and Marie what they are identifying right now. The Roxbury Youth Program, the tutoring, homeward help, career exploration, financial literacy, having people come in and talk about wellness. So they do different things in the summer than they do during the year, but they can use that kind of help. Renewal House, Marie was really clear. We can, the women, it's not what she's saying. She asked them, the women said it'd be great to have some help with childcare and pairing that with somebody coming in and doing something of self-care or creative exploration. And so that would be something looking to do ideally weekly. In general, we need Karen and maintenance help at the Peace Garden, and we always need help here with the different events that we do. So that's that for now. Let's move on, if we could, Vinny, to the community partners. There's more here. You can read it as I speak for a little bit, but City Life Vida Urbana, for those who don't know of it, is a 50-year-old organization based nearby in Jamaica Plain, Eggleston Square, that works on housing justice. And it's a lot around tenants' rights, and it's a lot around legislation. And it's all around the law. So they could really use lawyers. If any people in your congregation are legal or legal students and they feel like they want to get right into the heart of it, they'll get some training and they can be active, on Tuesday nights in Jamaica Plain or over in East Boston in Spanish on Wednesday nights. There's opportunities for people to come together in big actions. There's opportunities to go to the State House. So there's a lot there at City Life Vida Urbana. And so far, we've just had some minimal contact. They come in, they use the space. It's a true partnership, but I'd love to see. Now, I do want to say, actually, I think Posey's here from Theodore Parker. I think that Theodore Parker Church has been pretty active in City Life Vida Urbana. So I do want to acknowledge that. Let's move on, Vinny, to the next one, Dee Dee's Cry. So we have both Ruth and Rebecca here that are part of the circle of support for Dee Dee's Cry. And these are the things that are listed here that Toy Burton has acknowledged or has said she could use help with. We have people working on some of these things. We've got the 6 volunteers that are the circle of support, but there is always room for more. Toy, who's the director, does a lot of events in the community, where it's kind of like when we do it here. She can use some hands-on during those. So there's that kind of incidental stuff as well. I can send this all out to people later. I didn't think it would make sense to go through what each one of these things is, but just know that Dee Dee's Cry is one of our partners. It's a fairly new organization. It's very grassroots. Its mission is to, as I mentioned before, really prevent suicide and be there for bereaved people in the aftermath of a death by suicide. Let's move on to the Refugee Immigration Assistance Center. Now, I will want to say that the Bedford congregation has connected with them. They're all about resettlement work, and they've got some really clear ways that people can do that. The biggest thing is to take on as a community, helping a family resettle. But in addition, there's a lot of these different drives for, if somebody has a baby, things for the baby, if they're setting up a new home, a kit to help people make a new home, school supplies for kids. So you can do drives in your congregations. That's a fairly, it's time intensive, but we've all done those, right? Somebody earlier was talking about that in their congregation. I think it was you, Daveline. So those are things, they do need tutors for folks who are learning English. That can be done online. It doesn't have to be done in person. And they have a big holiday toy drive in December, which I think they have that here, actually here. Okay, moving on, go to the next, Vinny. So I think a lot of folks are familiar with the Peace Institute, the Louis D. Brown Peace Institute, right? That you've walked in the Mother's Day Walk for Peace. It certainly is an organization that many UU congregations support. So keep going with that. Laura Malpe, who was here earlier, she organized a dinner a couple nights before the walk. The walk is always on Mother's Day, to gather people from the Dorchester community, which is the congregation she was a part of. And that was just great. So there are things like that that you can do. You can have Clementina Cherry come and preach at your church. She's a fine preacher. And then sometimes the contribution that day can go to her, but it's great to give her visibility, and look on their website for more. Page Academy is a partner of Urban Ministries. It's a terrific independent Black school right here right up the road. Well-loved, beloved. The primary way that we're helping Page Academy right now is with an important fundraising campaign that they have going. So if that's something you wanted to support, let me know. And that's it. Now, before I talk about the support, do folks have questions on the volunteering piece? At the moment, the way it is you reach out to me, and I will take it from there. I am available if it made sense, and I've done this before. It's come to congregations and meet with your social justice committee, or come in any way. And I can do plenty of Zoom meetings too. But before I move on to the last piece, I just want to see if you have any questions.
Yeah, Tricia, one of the slides that you went through, just because I live in Harvard, had to do with there was something about Devon's Crest on it.
Yeah.
And I was reading the rest of the slide, and the slide went by so fast, I didn't get to that one, which was the last one. Are you guys going to be showing these again, or can I link them?
The Devon Crest, I would be thrilled if you out that way got involved in that particular campaign. It's an housing development of over 100 units. They're all affordable. The Tenants Association wants to buy the development. The owners are selling it. And according to the organizer at City Life, the amount they proposed was a very commendable amount, but the owners say they want more. So pressure is being put on of the owners of Devon Crest to get them to the table to to sell to the current tenants, which would be terrific. Otherwise, it's potentially a loss of 100 units of affordable housing. So there's an interfaith group that's working on that issue in actually in Acton, I think is where they are, and I can
Okay.
keep you there. But I'm happy to follow up with you on that.
Can you send us those slides or the
Yes.
information that's on those slides?
Sure
Because I
can.
couldn't copy it all.
Yeah,
In order to, so that I could tell other people what's up.
absolutely. I'll send that
I
out
think,
to
I
everybody.
think that around housing, it's good to hear of something that is in risk of losing 100 units of housing in this environment is shocking. So I think that those of us that are surrounding Acton or wherever this is need to listen up and perhaps help.
You know, I'm absolutely delighted to hear you say that, Alice. To be honest, in the spring, I was trying to build some support and I got a little nibbles, from some of the congregations out that way, but nothing, just a little bit. And I would really love, and there's already this interfaith coalition that you can join. So
Can you send some information about the Interfaith Coalition? Because I'd be
I'll give you
interested.
the contact person.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's yeah, I will.
One of the things that interests me is that for our congregation, getting people into Roxbury at the end of the afternoon when one of these programs needs people or is really problematic. And I don't know how to address that. And if other congregations have addressed it and can share with me some of those ideas, that would really be helpful. I am organizing a bus trip into Roxbury specifically to hopefully get people to understand the amazing campus and programs of the urban ministry and this amazing location and in a booming, Nubian Square. It's just a shame that people are afraid. I don't know whether they're afraid or whether they're just, it's too much trouble. I don't know. But it's frustrating.
Yeah, yeah. Well, kudos for you to get a bus for people. I mean, you're making it as easy as possible and as much of a community experience as possible.
I hope so. Yeah. And I've had a pretty good sign up. I'm kind of excited.
That's terrific.
We're going to go in a school bus.
Great. That is a challenge, the distance. It is. And the traffic doesn't help depending on when you're going. So I just wanted to ask if other people have any ways that you've met that challenge of the distance to actually come in.
The timing of the need for volunteer support, that's another issue. I mean,
Right. So for instance, if you were to help with the tutoring program, which is an after school, that's a harder thing, but there are other opportunities that aren't locked into those moments.
I think that's great.
Yeah. Any final
Well,
questions?
certainly carpooling is helpful,
Right.
to just bring passengers and show them how accessible it can be and how you navigate it and where you park and just to sort of be, it's that accompaniment model really. And especially on the weekend, it tends to be easier for, for like the jazz concerts on the grass. I mean, that's a lovely kind of event to take people to, or to go together.
I mean, it's a process, right?
Yeah.
You come in for a jazz concert, you say, wow, this is a pretty amazing place here. Wow, this is a pretty amazing community. I might come back again. And maybe you come and you do one of the tours. I mean, I have to think to have a tour about, I don't know, this makes me excited. The tour, the Trees of Roxbury, led by a local elder, Thomas Plant. I mean, who doesn't want to do that? Now it's easy for me.
Fantastic.
It is good.
Who did that? Some of you have done that one?
I've done it in the past.
Yeah, we did it 2 years ago.
Right.
You mentioned tutoring again. Does RYP want old folks to come in as tutors? I know they have Boston College kids, and I wasn't sure they wanted adult, grown-ups,
Yeah, that's a good question. I think
former English teachers.
yeah, well, my hunch is they might, but I think that is best answered by Reggie Walker, who you met
Okay.
earlier in the video. Do you want to reach out to him directly yourself?
I will. Yeah, I will.
Okay, okay. I do know that over the summer, Reggie was asking for me to look for folks that could come in and it wasn't so much the tutoring, it was more talk about their work experiences, so sort of a career exploration.
Oh.
But yeah, Vinny just said we'll get you an answer on that too. But by all means, you can also.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, great. All right. Other folks have any thoughts, observations, questions? Thank you for hanging in there. This is the first training we've done in a while. I would welcome your feedback. You can send me an email at tbrennan@uuum.org. How this went, but also what you would like for future trainings. And then I'm just going to close with saying what is here as support for the volunteers of urban ministry. One thing that's new that we're going to start next month is a session that's a virtual session, so you don't have to come in. And just to sort of an open session, I will be there as a, so to speak, facilitator, where people can talk about how their experience is going as a volunteer, what have been the successes, the joys, mistakes they've made, if they have made any, and just, a place to be with others, kind of like this, but much more open. So that will be happening on the October 16th from 7 to 8 p.m. It'll be virtual. So there'll be more word coming out about that, but just to let you know that will be the first one, but it would be a monthly offering that people can partake in. You can always reach out to me, obviously. Vinny also said to make sure to tell you that you can reach out to him, and he does know a whole lot. We are, the folks may know, I was hired as a consultant in January to get the program to the point where it made sense to bring on a full-time person. And we are doing that now. We are interviewing for people. So when that person comes on board, that person will be your go-to for any kind of support. And then, I always think that the people who volunteer can also be great supports to each other, as well as the staff person, whether it's a partner organization or somebody here, whoever is your primary staff person can be of support too. So I want to make sure nobody feels like they're out there doing it and not getting the support that they need. Okay. Well, that is the end of our time. And I thank you sincerely for giving 2 hours of your day on this end of September day.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tricia.
Yes,
Very
thank you
welcome.
very much.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Tricia.
Vinny, for
And
being our
Vinny.
guy.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks.